The orbital freight yard of Delta 9 slept under freezing metal skies. Empty loading arms hung like giant shadows. Orange warning lights blinked weakly through drifting ice. No workers. No drones. No sound except the wind scraping across steel. Only one man walked the silent walkway. Derek Hale, middle-aged, tired eyes, heavy boots. Once, long ago, he designed beautiful living rings for deep space. Now he pushed cargo reports and tried to stay invisible. His ship, the Wayfarer's Hope, was grounded in Dock C-47, temporarily inactive, according to the station. In truth, the ship was his home, and the station was watching every breath he took. Energy audits. Oxygen usage alerts. One wrong number, and they would take the ship from him. Derek rubbed his hands together for warmth. He came out tonight only to check a small parts crate he'd ordered months ago. The kiosk was ahead, just a few more steps. Then something caught his eye. A shape. Curled. Motionless. Half hidden under a scaffolding support where the walkway dipped into shadow. At first, he thought it was trash. A torn tarp blown by the wind. But then it moved. He stopped. The wind lifted ice crystals into the air, and an emergency light flicked twice, bright enough to show a glimpse of skin. Pale green, almost glowing under the frost. Derek stepped closer. A woman. Thin. Tall. Wrapped in a ceremonial cloth soaked through and frozen. Her arms were bare. Her feet were bare. Her breathing was shallow, fogging the air in tiny, weak bursts. Strange glowing lines ran under her skin, dim like dying stars. She was still alive, but barely. Derek's heart tightened. 1,000 thoughts rushed in. She has no ID band. No tag. No registration. If I call security, she disappears. If I walk away, she dies. His wrist display lit up with a soft red number. 1 credit remaining. That was all he had. His last credit. Enough for food tomorrow or 1 thermal blanket tonight. He looked at her again. Her fingers trembled. Her lips had turned dark from cold. She didn't even have the strength to speak. The vending kiosk behind him hummed quietly. A thermal cocoon hung inside the machine. Price, 1 credit. Derek closed his eyes for a moment. He knew the risk. If she came aboard, the ship would record extra heat, extra air, extra life. The station systems would see it. They always saw everything. But he also knew this. If he left her here, she would not live another hour. He walked to the kiosk, pressed his wrist to the scanner, and watched the last red credit disappear. A metal thud dropped the cocoon into the tray. He ran back to her. Kneeling, he wrapped the warm cocoon around her shoulders. She flinched at first, then relaxed. Her breathing steadied just a little. But she was too weak to stand. "Can you hear me?" Derek asked softly. Her eyes opened, bright, glowing teal, and full of fear. She didn't speak, didn't move, only watched him with silent panic. "It's okay," he whispered. "I won't hurt you." He lifted her into his arms. She was taller than him, but shockingly light, like her bones were hollow. Her head dropped against his chest, and her frozen fingers clutched weakly at his coat. Derek walked toward Dock C-47, boots crunching through ice. His ship waited in silence. His last credit was gone, and he was carrying a stranger who could ruin everything. The Wayfarer's Hope hatch opened with a soft hiss. Warm air rushed out. Cold air rushed in, and Derek stepped inside, crossing a line he could never step back from. Warm air filled the narrow hall of the Wayfarer's Hope as Derek carried the alien woman inside. The door sealed behind them with a soft metallic sigh. For a moment, the ship seemed to hold its breath, like it knew he had just brought trouble home. Derek laid her gently on his bunk, the only real bed on the ship. The heater buzzed to life, pushing steady warmth into the small room. Frost melted off her skin in tiny streams. She shivered hard, then slowly opened her eyes again. Up close, Derek saw details he'd missed in the freezing darkness. Her skin held faint glowing lines, shapes he didn't recognize, cultural markings, not cybernetics. Her hair was long, tangled from the wind, strands sticking to her cheeks as the ice melted. She watched him carefully. No fear now, just exhaustion. Derek poured water from a tin flask and held it out. "Drink." Slowly. She obeyed, her fingers trembling around the cup. Each sip steadied her breathing. "What's your name?" he asked. Her voice came out soft, cracked from cold. "Lyra." Derek nodded. "I'm Derek. This is my ship. You're safe here for now. Her eyes flicked to the ceiling, to the vents, to the dim lights. She seemed to be listening to the ship, not to him. Meanwhile, a sharp ping came from the console. Derek froze. Oxygen variance plus 2.3%. Air draw spike detected. Investigation recommended. He rushed to the panel and silenced the alert before it could relay anything to station systems. His heart pounded as he saw her watching him. "You're hiding me already," she said quietly. He didn't deny it. Instead, he grabbed a towel, handed it to her, and stepped back to give her space. "Where are you from, Lyra?" Her eyes lowered. "From Aurora Spire 9. But," she swallowed hard. "Not anymore." She looked thin, too thin. Not from one cold night, but from days of hunger, from running. Derek leaned against the bulkhead. "What happened there?" Lyra hesitated. Not because she didn't want to answer, but because she was weighing whether she should trust him. Then she spoke. "Our station was taken over. A syndicate. They wanted control of our oxygen rights and our bodies. Anyone who refused to register was marked as non-compliant." Derek frowned. "And that means what?" "It means they track you until you break or disappear." Her voice didn't shake. Not once. She had lived through worse than freezing metal floors. Derek rubbed a hand over his face. She wasn't just lost. She wasn't just undocumented. She was hunted. He checked the console again, this time more carefully. Another notification blinked at the bottom of the screen. Efficiency variance recorded. Manual review possible. He cursed under his breath. If the station suspected unusual patterns, they could trigger a dockside audit. And if they scanned his ship while she was inside. He didn't want to imagine it. Lyra wrapped the thermal cocoon tighter around her. She looked stronger now, but still fragile. "I didn't ask you to bring me here," she said softly. "I know," Derek answered. "You didn't have to help me. I know that too." Silence filled the tiny room. Not heavy, just real. Her eyes shifted toward him. "You used your last credit." Derek shrugged. "Didn't need it." That earned the faintest, smallest smile. Not full, not bright, but something alive. Outside, the station wind howled against the hull. Inside, Derek stood by the console, staring at the silent warnings that could change his whole life. Lyra lay curled on his bunk, glowing lines along her arms soft and steady. She wasn't safe. And now, neither was he. But Derek didn't regret saving her. Not yet. Not tonight. He only wondered what price he had truly paid when he gave up his last credit. Derek woke to a soft hiss. Not loud. Not dangerous. But the kind of sound his old ship should not make on its own. He sat up fast, blanket falling from his shoulders. The heater hummed quietly. The bunk behind him was empty. Lyra was gone. A jolt hit his chest. He stood quickly and stepped into the narrow corridor, bare feet cold on the metal floor. The emergency strip lighting cast a faint blue glow along the walls. He found her in front of the forward console, kneeling, his tools neatly lined beside her. The panel was open, wires exposed. Small sparks blinked as she tightened a thin filament with surprising precision. Derek froze. "What are you doing?" She didn't look up. "Fixing something you didn't know was broken." That wasn't comforting. Finally, she turned her head slightly toward him. "Your ship still sends a status ping to the station every 6 hours," she said. "If they see that your heat output changed since I arrived, they will check your dock." Derek's stomach tightened. He knew she was right. The station watched everything. Heat, air, movement, breathing. "You're telling me we're already visible?" he asked. Lyra nodded. "Not fully. Not yet. But soon." She picked up a thin fiber sleeve and handed it to him. It looked like scrap, a cut wire, half a resistor, a memory clip. But she had shaped it into something functional. "If you place this inside the relay line," she explained, "your signal will stay steady. It will look the same as before. The station will not notice the change inside your ship." Derek stared at the small device. "You made this?" She shrugged lightly. "I learned to fix vents and data nodes back home. When you're hunted, you learn to disappear." Derek hesitated. "You should be resting." "I will rest when I am not afraid." He felt those words hit deeper than she intended. For a moment, neither spoke. Then she asked quietly, "Do you trust me?" Derek looked at the device in his hand. Improvised, yes. But clever. Sharp. Thoughtful. "I don't know yet," he said honestly. "But I believe you want to survive." She accepted that answer with a small nod. "Then let me help us both." By midday, they worked together. Derek rerouted the thermal output to avoid drawing attention. Lyra adjusted wiring deep inside the vents, where only someone desperate would ever crawl. During a short break, they ate simple protein stew in the galley. Lyra ate calmly, controlled, not like someone starved, but someone trained to ration every bite. Derek watched her. She sensed it. "You still haven't asked why I chose your ship," she said. He frowned. "You chose it." "Yes." She placed the empty cup aside. "Back on Aurora Spire 9, I worked near the dome structures. I saw your name on the design plates. You made places that felt gentle. Places meant to heal, not control." Derek blinked. "You remembered that?" "I trusted that a man who designed peace would not turn me in." He didn't know what to say. No one had said anything kind about his work in years. She continued softly. "I was right." A sudden alarm blinked on the console. Orange, not red. Doc C-47. Scheduled filter audit. 40 hours. Derek's heart dropped. "They're coming here," he whispered. Lyra stood, face tightening. "They will check your ship. And if I'm inside..." He didn't let her finish. "We'll leave," he said quickly. "Before they come." Her eyes widened a little. "That's a risk. We don't have a choice." Lyra stepped closer, her voice low. "If I am too dangerous to keep, tell me. I can leave." Derek shook his head. "You're not dangerous." "Then what am I?" He looked at her glowing eyes, her tired but steady expression. "A problem," he said. "But one I chose." A faint smile touched her lips. "Then let's solve it." Together, they began preparing a launch sequence. Quiet, careful, hidden. The station outside hummed like a giant machine ready to expose them. Inside the small ship, two strangers worked side by side, trying to vanish from a world that never wanted them to survive. 40 hours. That was all the time they had before the audit team arrived. Inside the Wayfarer's Hope, Derek worked fast at the pilot console, fingers tapping through old launch menus he hadn't touched in months. The engines groaned like someone waking from a long sleep. Beside him, Lyra checked wires, locks, and vents with practiced movements. She moved like someone who had learned to survive by being fast and silent. "We can't blast out," Derek said. "A full launch will light up every scanner on the station." "I know," Lyra answered. "So we don't launch loudly. We slip out quietly." She opened a small storage crate and pulled out a palm-sized drone, old, dented, half-functional. Derek frowned. "That thing barely flies." "It doesn't need to fly far," she said. "It just needs to pretend to be you." She placed the drone on the table, attached a tiny heat emitter, and wired a copied ID signal into it. When it powered on, the drone had a faint glow like an engine warming up. "If we release this after we undock," she explained, "station sensors will track the decoy. They'll think you left on a long route." "And the actual ship?" Derek asked. "Will drift under the shadow of the scrap hauler. No heat, no lights, no noise." A risky plan. A desperate plan. But their only plan. The countdown began. 20 hours left. Derek filed a fake maintenance report to mask the power fluctuations from their preparation. Lyra crawled through the vent shafts, adjusting the thermal spread so the ship would look empty when the station scanned it. 10 hours left. Derek shut down non-essential systems. The lights dimmed. The hum of the ship faded until the silence felt heavy. 6 hours left. Lyra stood by the airlock, holding the decoy drone. "When I release it, we must stay cold. No breathing near the vents. No talking." Derek tried to smile. "You're good at this." "I had to become good at this," she replied. "Running teaches you many things." Her voice was steady, but her hands trembled slightly. 4 hours left. The clamps around the ship unlocked. The Wayfarer's Hope drifted away from the dock. No engine burn, only silent maneuver jets. Derek held his breath as they passed a wide sensor array. Any heat, any sound, any wrong number, and they were done. Lyra released the drone. It shot forward like a tiny shooting star, its fake heat signature glowing bright. The station scanners immediately followed it. "We're hidden," Lyra whispered. "Not yet," Derek replied. "We still need cover." He steered the ship into the dark shadow of a massive, derelict hauler floating just outside the hub's main ring. The old ship's bulk blotted out their heat like a shield. Moments passed. Minutes. Long, painful silence. Then, the console beeped softly. Scan complete. No anomalies detected. Derek exhaled. Lyra leaned against the wall, finally letting her shoulders drop. "We're out," he said. She nodded slowly. "For now." When they were far enough from the hub, Derek powered the engines at low strength. The stars stretched around them, cold and endless. Lyra sat beside him, watching through the viewport. Her voice came out gently. "Where will you go now?" Derek hesitated, then said it. "There is a place, an old ring station I helped design. It was never finished, never registered properly. It's off most maps." Lyra turned toward him, eyes glowing faintly. "You want to hide there?" "I want to live," he said. "And I think you do too." She was quiet for a long moment. Then she whispered, "I will follow, if you'll have me." Derek didn't look away from the stars. "I already chose you the moment I picked you up from the cold." A faint, fragile smile spread across her face. The engines hummed. The stars passed slowly. The station faded behind them like a bad memory. They were no longer running. They were heading somewhere. 2 days later, the wayfarers' hope drifted out of the radiation band and into quiet space. Ahead of them floated a giant ring, dark, silent, half broken, but still holding its shape against the stars. Horizon Loop 7. Derek felt a strange ache in his chest as he stared at it. He had designed this place when he was young, before budgets were cut, before his industry collapsed, before life became a slow crawl through cargo docks. "It looks asleep," Lyra whispered beside him. "It is," Derek said. "No one ever lived here." "Until now," she answered softly. He guided the ship toward an old docking arm. Surprisingly, the manual clamps responded. Engines hissed. Metal groaned. The airlock slid open with a shaky welcome, as if the station had been waiting years for someone to return. Inside, the air was thin but breathable. Derek handed Lyra a rebreather mask. She slipped it on with a practiced movement. They stepped inside. The hallway lights flickered one by one, struggling awake. Dust lifted in soft clouds. Their footsteps echoed down the curved metal passage, bouncing off walls that had never heard a human voice before. Lyra moved slowly, hand gliding along the panels. "It feels warm." "It was designed to," Derek replied. "People see too much cold metal in space. I wanted this place to feel alive." They reached the core habitat module. When the doors opened, Lyra stopped completely. A wide greenhouse chamber stretched out before them. Rows of tall, transparent panels ringed the room. Some were cracked, some fogged, but most held. A shallow pond lay still in the center, covered in dull moss. Emergency lanterns blinked along the walls, weak but present. Crates sat sealed and untouched, exactly where Derek's team had left them years ago. Lyra whispered, "It's beautiful." Derek let out a breath he didn't realize he was holding. It was supposed to be more. Sun mirrors, air gardens, walkways with real plants. But they cut the project before we finished the cycle. She stepped forward, touching the glass of a greenhouse panel. "And now it belongs to no one." He shook his head gently. "It belongs to whoever needs it." Her eyes softened in a way he had never seen before. They spent hours checking systems. Derek patched leaks, tested temperature cycles, and coaxed life into old vents. Lyra cleaned surfaces, opened sealed crates, and checked what could still be used. By evening, the station hummed faintly, weak but alive. They sat together on the floor of the rest deck, sharing a barely warmed ration pack. The glow from a single working light panel painted the room in soft amber. Lyra tilted her head back, watching dust drift through the light. "This place, it feels like it was waiting." Derek looked at her profile, the gentle glow under her skin, the calm settling over her face. "It was waiting," he murmured. "Just not for the people it was built for." She turned to him. "Then who was it waiting for?" "You," he said quietly. "And maybe me." Silence held them. Not empty, not tense, but full of something new. Lyra moved closer. Not out of fear. Not because she owed him anything, but because she wanted to. "Derek," she said softly. "When you found me, I thought you would walk away. People usually do." "I know," he whispered. "But you didn't. You brought me in. You kept me warm." He looked down at her hands, steady now, no longer shaking from cold. "I just did what anyone should do." "No," she said. "Not anyone. Just you." She rested her forehead against his shoulder. He froze for a moment, then slowly wrapped an arm around her, feeling her relax against him. The greenhouse lights flickered above them like fading stars. The abandoned ring was no longer empty, no longer forgotten. Two people sat together in the quiet heart of a place that never had a chance to live. Now it finally did. Time passed quietly on Horizon Loop 7. Days blended into each other without alarms. without scanners, without anyone watching. For the first time in years, Derek felt the weight of fear slowly slip off his shoulders. The station, once abandoned, now breathed with them. He spent mornings repairing what the years had damaged, patching broken insulation, sealing cracked pipes, rewiring failing heaters. Every time a system came back to life, the ring hummed warmly, as if grateful. Lyra spent her mornings in the greenhouse. She moved barefoot across the soil trays, planting seeds from old emergency kits. She tied strips of cloth over harsh lights to soften the glow, turning cold metal into something that felt like a home. "Plants grow better when the air feels gentle," she said once. Derek didn't doubt it. Everything Lyra touched seemed to grow softer, warmer. One cycle, Derek found her sitting by the pond, hand pressed slowly against her stomach. Her face was calm, but her eyes were distant. "You okay?" he asked. She hesitated, then nodded. "I don't know. What do you feel?" "Not pain," she said. "Just strange." Derek crouched beside her, concern rising. "Strange how?" She took his hand and placed it on her lower belly. The skin beneath his palm felt warm, too warm, and the faint glowing lines on her body were brighter than usual. Then she whispered, "Derek, I think I carry life." He froze, not because he didn't believe her, but because he did. He rushed to the med kit, pulled out the old scanner, and ran it across her abdomen. The screen flickered, old and unreliable, but the waveform it showed was clear. Not a sickness, not a glitch. A heartbeat. A small one. A real one. Lyra covered her mouth, tears forming in her eyes. "I thought my body was too weak. I thought the cold, the running." Derek's throat tightened. "You're not weak. Not anymore." She leaned forward, forehead touching his. Her breath shook. "I was afraid to hope." He held her gently. "Hope is allowed here." Her tears fell silently. Not from fear, but from something blooming after months of running. The next days changed everything. Lyra grew softer around the edges, her steps slower, her hands lingering over the plants she tended. She slept deeper, smiled more. Her skin glowed faintly at night, warmer, brighter than before. Derek became more protective. He triple-checked oxygen levels. He reinforced door seals. He tested the power grid twice a day. He even named the small, finished alcove in the side corridor. "The hatchling corner," he said proudly. Lyra laughed, really laughed, for the first time since he'd met her. "You're choosing to be a father," she teased gently. "I'm choosing to stay," he replied. And she kissed him for that. One evening, they lay together beneath a salvaged thermal sheet, Lyra curled against his chest. Her breath was soft. The faint light from the greenhouse cast gentle shadows over them. She traced slow circles on his arm. "Do you think they'll ever find us?" "Not here," Derek said. "This place is off every map. And even if they look, the ring has no signature to track." "And if they do," she whispered. "Then we decide together," he said. "No one takes you. No one takes what's ours." She rested her hand over her belly. "I never thought I would have a home again." "You do now?" She lifted her head, eyes glowing softly. "Derek, I'm still scared." "So am I," he admitted. "But," she whispered, laying her head back on his chest, "it feels good to be scared with someone." He kissed the top of her hair. "We're not running anymore." Outside, the stars drifted in endless silence. Inside, a new life moved gently under Lyra's skin. The ring was no longer abandoned. It had purpose now, and so did they. 3 months passed in quiet orbit. Horizon Loop 7, once a forgotten shell, now felt alive. Not loud, not bright, just steady, like a slow, warm heartbeat. Derek woke each morning to the faint rustle of Lyra moving through the greenhouse. He'd hear her soft steps over the soil trays, her gentle humming, the distant splash of water as she tended the sprouting vines. She had changed. Her body was healthy now, cheeks fuller, eyes brighter. Her glowing lines pulsed in steady rhythms beneath her skin. And her belly, round, warm, softly illuminated, moved sometimes with tiny kicks. Derek never got used to the miracle of it. Sometimes he stood by the door just to watch her, not wanting to interrupt the way she touched the leaves like they were old friends. "You're staring again," Lyra teased him one morning without turning. "Is it that obvious?" "Yes," she said, smiling. He walked in, placed his hands on her waist from behind, then slowly rested one palm on her belly. Right on cue, a gentle movement pressed back. "She's strong," Lyra whispered. You think it's a girl? I feel it, she said softly. A quiet strength. Their small home grew with them. Derek reinforced the walls of the hatchling corner, shaping the arch the way he always imagined living spaces should feel: curved, warm, gentle. Lyra decorated it with woven strips of cloth and small glowing stones she found in old storage crates. At night, they lit lanterns she made from scrap wiring and translucent fabric. The whole room glowed with soft colors: greens, golds, blues, shifting like calm water. It didn't look like a storage cell anymore. It looked like hope. One evening, Lyra sat by the greenhouse window, the cracked panel letting in a slow beam of starlight. She held her belly with both hands, breathing slowly. Derek joined her, settling beside her on the floor. "What are you thinking?" he asked. "That I'm not hiding anymore," she said. "For the first time, I feel like I exist." "You do," Derek whispered. "More than ever." She rested her head on his shoulder. "Sometimes I worry the past will find us." "It won't," he said. "This ring is invisible to everyone but us. And if someone comes, then we protect what we built." His hand covered hers. Together. She closed her eyes. "I never had it together before." He kissed her forehead. "You do now?" The station hummed softly around them, warm, steady, alive. Lyra shifted and guided his hand to the gentle curve of her belly. A tiny kick pressed against his palm. Her voice was almost a whisper. "She's listening." Derek smiled. "Then let her hear this. She's safe here." Lyra lifted her face and kissed him softly, slowly, with a warmth that filled the whole quiet ring. Not fear, not desperation, just love born from survival and choice. Later that night, after they finished checking the filters and turning down the lights, they lay together on the padded bedding. Lyra curled into his chest, her breathing soft and even. Derek wrapped his arms around her, steady and protective. Outside the window, the stars drifted in silent patterns. No stations watching, no syndicate searching, no alarms, no trackers, no footsteps in the dark. Just peace. The Wayfarer's hope rested permanently in Dock Arm 3, its engines retired. It had carried them far enough. Now, the ring carried them forward. Lyra whispered, half asleep, "I never believed I would have a home or a family." "You have both," Derek answered, kissing her hair. "And they'll stay." Her hand found his in the dark, fingers intertwining. For the first time, they weren't fugitives. They weren't running. They weren't hiding. They were simply living. Safe. Warm. Together. In the forgotten ring orbiting nowhere, a new life waited to be born. Proof that even in abandoned places, hope grows when two people dare to build a world of their own.